Welcome back to another episode of the Flying G Huddle, your inside look into Gladwin football. I'm Casey Campbell. Of course, I am your host. Pleased to be joined, as always, by Mark Jarsfer, the head football coach at Gladwin. How are you?
Doing good. It's game week, ready to roll.
Yeah, it is. It is week one is upon us. Flat Rock is coming into town, but before we get into that, if you didn't watch our season preview episode, we'll kind of skim through all the things. If you missed it, if you're just tuning in, you're just doing all this. How has the summer been?
Good. I thought we had a really good summer. I talked about it in the season preview episode, how we kind of backloaded our summer and we were really busy at the end of July and gave guys, a lot of June and the first half of July to do things that they wanted to do and play other sports and those sorts of things. And so really we've been at it, the last 2 full weeks of July and right into the season. And so we've got a lot of good reps and our guys are starting to kind of turn the corner and get themselves into a position to be game ready.
Yeah. So really, and then just kind of just a quick reminder of some of the top players that really kind of stood out because now that you've gone through camp, now you've gone through those 2 weeks, now you've gone through the scrimmage. Who are some of the names to watch out for, and some names that maybe people don't know just yet.
Yeah, offensively, it'll obviously all start with our third-year starting quarterback, Colton Finnegar. Next to him is a third-year starter, Preston Willert, at running back. And so those two guys will kind of be the focal point and take the lead on everything. Out at the slot position, we have Bronson Bigham, who ended the year in a big way with some exciting catches and big moments. He's only going into his sophomore year, but he's moving into the slot position. And so we expect big things out of him. Brody Verellen, after being off all last year with an injury, is back and doing really good things for us at wide receiver. Logan Walters is playing the other receiver. Cruz Balsarac has moved into a slot role this year and is doing a great job. MJ McDonald is only a sophomore, but he's given us a lot of good reps at running back and some at slot. There's various other guys that are going to contribute from the skill position. Our offensive line has been doing a great job. Coach Emiot always does a wonderful job getting them ready, and they're always going to be good to go by week one. We have a returner there, Max Bars. Ethan Bruner took some good snaps last year for us, and he's starting at guard. Jackson McKinnon at center had a really nice offseason going into his senior year and earned that position. And then a couple sophomores, Carson Reed and Mark Molesworth, starting at tackle. And so, those are kind of the guys that we're going to roll with to start the year. And obviously, like I mentioned, we have other guys that'll take some time and get game situations and plug in where we can to keep the rotation going. But those are some of the top name guys to kick us off offensively. Defensively, it all starts with Preston Willert in the middle, third-year starter at middle linebacker. I think one of the best linebackers in the state. I've been telling everybody that. He flies around. He's a super high IQ player. He works extremely hard. He's strong. And so just kind of the complete package. Next to him is Talon Goodwin, who started next to him last year as well. And so getting both of those guys back in the middle is a big deal because we think our defense is just as good as anybody in the area. And so when you have two middle linebackers coming back, that's something that we're not upset about. Up front on the defensive line, Max Bars returns there. Mateo Persky is a sophomore. He's going to take a lot of the first reps at nose tackle. And then Jackson McKinnon playing defensive end opposite of Max. Bumping back a level, outside linebackers. Jeffrey Zietz, first year player for us this year. Good hockey player, tough kid, very strong. Going to be playing outside linebacker. Braden Randall is going to be opposite of him, who started a few games last year. And then moving back into our secondary, Logan Walters and MJ McDonald at safety. And then a good rotation of Bronson Bigham, Cruz Balsarac, and Colton Finnegar playing cornerback. And guys like Brody Varellen will be mixing in at safety, and Mason Cameron, at wide receiver and defensive back. And so, we have a number of guys that, even though they're not listed as starters, are going to get quite a bit of time this year on both sides of the ball. And we're excited to see where it goes.
Yep. Okay, so now that we've caught up on everything, of course, we'll take a look at this week's opponent. Well, before we do that, we have to talk about of course, JV as well. How do you what's the outlook for them coming up?
Yeah, and so I always say this every single year when we're doing this show is we really look at that as a developmental program, and so it's not as much about the wins and losses at that level as it is about getting guys good game reps and getting them up to speed so that when we graduate guys off from the varsity team, we can take the guys that developed under the JV team and kind of plug them and play and try to continue on our tradition of winning that we've been able to uphold the last few years. And so they got a lot of good young guys. We have taken 5, 6 sophomores up from that team that are going to be permanent fixtures on the varsity team. There'll be a couple more guys that we'll use as fifth quarter guys, and so they'll get limited reps on the JV team so that they have some eligible quarters remaining for Friday nights as well. And then, there's, like I mentioned, there's still a lot of young guys left on that JV team. And so it'll be interesting to see, how they develop over the course of this year. And we're excited to see, a lot of their futures within our program.
And let's talk about the middle school program. I know that when does that all start?
Yeah, so we're really excited about our middle school program. Last year was the first year that was kind of under our umbrella, so to speak, and so they're running our offensive plays and defensive plays, and this is year 2 in that. And so things for them kicked off this last Monday. Was their first day of practice, and they've had a great week. And it's really cool now seeing the 8th graders in year 2 be able to quickly pick up where they left off from last year, and they're able to remember some of the terminology and the plays and the techniques and all those types of things. And so it'll be cool, furthermore down the road, seeing that group, as they get into their senior year, they'll be the first ever group to go through Gladwin that's ran the same offense with the same terminology and schemes for 6 straight years. And so when you're able to do that, obviously that's going to have a great benefit within our program. The 7th graders are, they're learning because when you get into a new system with new schemes and terminology, it takes time. And so, I've got a chance to catch a little bit of their practice over the last week. And both teams are doing a great job, and we're excited for their season to get kicked off here before too long as well. It sounds like we're going to do a scrimmage at home at that level, 7th and 8th grade level, with Claire and possibly McBain. Right here at home. And so that'll be a cool opportunity for them on September 3rd to kind of go against another team before their actual game schedule starts on September 10th.
Absolutely. Okay, so I know I believe I'm not correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe school starts this week.
Our school actually started last week, and so
Right, that's right.
we're in like the second or third year of that, which it obviously has its pros with getting started early and ending before June, and having a lot of time in the summer for families to do things. But as far as the football perspective, it does kind of cramp you for time, just because that means teachers, which are obviously a lot of our staff are educators. And so those first 3 days of 2-a-days back 2 weeks ago, we were in professional development, for 7, 8 hours, whatever it was, and then you try to go and go to practice for 5 hours, and so you're just scrambling around and trying to make the best of it. And then same thing for this week. We get back into school, which brings its own challenges in a lot of regards, not just for educators but for kids as well, trying to adjust and adapt and all of those types of things. And then it's the same week as our scrimmage, and so JV team has to get out of school early already on the first week to get over in scrimmage, and so it's different. Back in the day, we used to get for sure a scrimmage, and some years a game or two done before school ever started. But that was back when school started after Labor Day, and over the last couple of years, it's been a little more difficult from a schedule management part, as far as getting practices in and those sorts of things. But we find a way to manage it. And I think that kind of goes back to the COVID days of when everything just had to be fluid, and you learn to adapt on the fly with whatever. And so I think, football coaches are generally a group that are stubborn and like things to stay structured and the same year after year. But I think, after those COVID days, we've been able to adapt on the fly a little bit easier. And this is, just another one of those situations.
Yeah. Okay, so of course, we've done this the last couple of times. Now it's time to talk about profile a staff member on the Gladwin staff. So who are we going to talk about this week?
Yeah, this week I'll talk about the rookie, Dan Willis. I think I mentioned him in the preview episode as well, but he's new to our staff this year, not new to Gladwin. He's a Gladwin alum from back in the early 2000s, I believe. Just got into teaching within the last year or so, and started over in Farwell before he was able to transition back into his hometown here in Gladwin. At first we didn't know if he was going to be just a volunteer or a paid staff guy. I think his initial thought was, getting his feet wet as a volunteer and seeing where it went. And then, with Coach Gary leaving to do other things, it left a paid opening, and he had put in a ton of time over the winter, with our workouts, and it was just always around and building relationships with the guys and doing a great job. So it just made sense to plug him in there. And so it may have been a little bit sooner than what he was hoping for or wanted. But man, he's really done a great job. I was just looking at Huddle numbers the other day, and I think last night, and he already had, for this weekend, a little over 4 hours of film watched, and he's making scout cards and doing all sorts of stuff. And so he really is he fits right in with the rest of us in terms of just not afraid to get his hands dirty. He's a grinder, and he'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. And so we've been really happy with him. The kids love being around him, and he's obviously going to be a great asset to our program.
Yeah. Okay, so this week, a new opponent. I believe this is the first time you've played this opponent, but Flat Rock is coming to town. A team that has been on a pretty successful run, especially the last few years with Coach Reum. So couple straight Final Four appearances, and down in Metro Detroit. So of course, Flat Rock's coming up to play Gladwin, coming up to play you guys up in Gladwin. So kind of preview that matchup. Two very similar teams.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say is, it's interesting. Obviously, we've never played before. They're about 3 hours away. I think they play in the Huron League
Yes.
down there. And so it's south of Detroit-ish. And so a unique opportunity for us, obviously, with the run of success that we've had over the last few years and the run of success that they've had over the last few years. It's one of those things where we were open for week one. Carmen Ainsworth dropped us, and their week one opened as well, and we were both looking for local games. Obviously, it's not ideal to travel 3 hours away especially for a week one game. But we were both kind of in the same boat. It's one of those things where a lot of schools will not play you if you've had success. And so we were both kind of in the same boat. We reached out to each other early on and said like, hey, is there any interest here? What does that look like? I think we both wanted to keep looking a little bit locally, but we said let's just kind of keep this on the back burner in case. And then the more teams that we both reached out to that turned us down, it became apparent that this was going to be kind of the week one matchup. And I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for both of us. We've been both ranked in the top 10 of Division 5 for the better part of the last 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. And when you look at the teams, it just seems like we're very similar in a lot of ways. Offensively run kind of some option type stuff, defensively fly around to the football. Last year they had a really good senior class. Graduated a lot of really good players. Same with us. Both teams, I believe, are quite a bit younger than they've been in the past. And so just a really cool opportunity all the way around for both of us. It's one of those games that a lot of people will have their eyes on in Division 5 around the state, just kind of seeing how it's going to go, because it's very rare that, you see two teams match up from this far across the state in Division 5. And, basically the only other way that we would have ever played each other would have likely been a Ford Field appearance, because we would have been on opposite sides of the bracket from a geographical standpoint as well. And so not anything that I would have ever envisioned coming to fruition, but I'm glad that it did, because it's going to be a cool environment for our kids, their kids, both communities, and it should make for a fun week one to watch across the state as well.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Flying G Huddle. Tune in next week where we'll recap this week's game against Flat Rock, and we'll preview next week's week 2 matchup against Spring Lake. All right, we'll talk to you next week.